Hello everyone, tonight we are crouched beside a nest. Not just any nest, this one belongs to something that looks like a mistake between a crane and a dragon. The moon is pale, the air is cool, and somewhere in the tall ferns behind you, something sighs like wind through bone flutes. You hold still, very still. The dinosaur sitting before you doesn't notice. She's got other priorities. Her flank rises and falls with steady breath, her beak tilted just so, and if you listen closely, you'll hear it. A hum, barely audible at first. Then it gathers rolling through her rib cage like the purring of a contented storm. You're watching a creature that sings to its eggs. Not a screech, not a roar, not even a chirp. A true, deliberate song. More vibration than melody, soft enough to melt into the soil. It's hypnotic. The eggs, a tight cluster of leathery ovals nestled in warm, pulsing leaves, don't just sit there. They react. You swear one of them just twitched. Don't worry, it wasn't your imagination. That one on the left wobbled like a bowl of jelly. So before you get comfortable, take a moment to like the video and subscribe, but only if you really like what I do here. Also, where are you tuning in from and what time is it for you right now? Drop it in the comments. There's something comforting about knowing we're all up too late together. Now, turn off the lights, maybe turn on the fan for some soothing noise, and let's get started tonight. The ground beneath you is cool, but not cold. This nest was built well lined with softened bark, old skin, and a few warm pebbles stolen from a stream bed long dried out. She's used feathers too, some fallen from her own arms. Her tail flicks now and then like she's counting down to something only she knows. She is not alone in this ancient grove. There are others like her in distant nests, but their voices don't carry tonight. The wind is wrong for it. But hers is strong enough. She hums again, lower, this time a bass note that travels through your spine. You glance down. A tiny vibration runs through the soil. Here's something odd to chew on while you lie here pretending you aren't terrified. There's a kind of fish alive today that hums in chorus at night loud enough to keep houseboats awake. The males vibrate their swim bladders to attract mates. Sound has always been a survival tool. Historians still debate whether this particular dinosaur, let's call her Echo for convenience, truly used vocalizations in parental care, or if we're just anthropomorphizing fossil patterns again. But here's the weird bit. Her fossilized nesting site was surrounded by fossilized eggs, almost all intact. And most were placed in a curve as if positioned deliberately to receive sound from a specific direction. Yours truly can't explain that away with coincidence. The moon shifts slightly overhead, filtered through a high canopy of prehistoric leaves. They shimmer like wet silk. You stretch your legs slowly, careful not to rustle anything. Echo doesn't notice. She's entirely absorbed in her role as Iswa, guardian singer, perhaps mother. You get a better look at her face. Her beak curves like a tuning fork. No teeth, just a smooth keratin edge. Behind the beak near the throat, there's a puffed area that inflates when she sings, like a frog's vocal sac but tucked deeper within a lattice of hollow bones. This is where the scientists freaked out. When the fossils were found near what's now Inner Mongolia, there was confusion. The bones were light like birds and riddled with air sacs. That wasn't surprising. What was surprising was the odd little ring of bone at the base of the windpipe. Not a larynx, but possibly something earlier, a structure some paleontologists say might have been the foundation for a syrinx. That's the voice box modern birds use to sing. It allows two tones to be produced simultaneously. A mockingbird's secret weapon. If this dinosaur had even the primitive beginning of such a system, that means song came earlier than we thought. Much earlier. Like rewriting the book early. But you don't need to understand anatomy to feel the effect. The nest is warm, not from heat but from presence. You feel oddly soothed, like you've stumbled into the living room of someone who has everything under control. This dinosaur is alert but not panicked, focused, calm. A leaf shifts nearby and she goes silent. You freeze, breath caught in your throat. A small nocturnal lizard darts across a fallen log tail, twitching like it's cursing gravity. Echo relaxes again. She hums once more, quieter this time, a soft downward spiral. The eggs respond again. One shivers, one gently rolls. You almost cry, but hold it together. You're not that tired. Yet. Let's derail the mood for a moment with a question no one asked. Did you know giraffes can hum at night too? They do it at frequencies too low for us to hear without special equipment. Maybe for bonding. Maybe for dreaming. Maybe because even tall creatures get lonely. You lean back, letting your head rest against a sun-bleached root. The stars above barely flicker. No satellites here, no planes, just pinpricks of white over a black ocean sky. Echo closes her eyes briefly. One wing tucks in tighter. The song becomes internal now, less an outward performance and more an internal engine, like she's charging herself for what's to come. She's been here for days, maybe weeks. She doesn't eat often, just waits, sings, waits again. And here you are, thousands of millennia too late, watching it all like a peeping time traveler with moss in your shoes. If you're wondering whether dinosaurs loved their children, there's no clean answer. We know some species nested communally. Some protected eggs. Others abandoned them. We also know this: you don't sit still for days under full exposure, whispering vibrations into fragile shells unless something inside you says it matters. One egg gives a single audible pop. You blink. Echo doesn't react. Not in fear, not in excitement, just shifts slightly, letting the sound pass. One note at a time. The next morning creeps in like fog under the skin. You didn't sleep, not really, just dozed in snatches while Echo kept singing through the dark. Her humming had stopped sometime near dawn, replaced by quiet breathing and the occasional rasp of claws adjusting against stone. You're stiff, your back hurts, and something small probably peed near your head during the night. But you're still here, and so is she. Now, though, she's moving. Not leaving, not even shifting nests, but rising just enough to stretch one clawed wing outward and scan the sky with her snout. Her nostrils flare. Something about the wind has changed. She gives a single cautious chirrup, a short, sharp sound, not musical but not meaningless either. The air listens. Nothing replies. You rise to your feet, careful not to crunch dried fern. In the daylight, the landscape unfolds in new dimensions. This isn't just a nesting spot. It's a valley, long and slightly curved like a bent rib. Along its edges are shallow pits where other nests might have been long since abandoned or taken over by moss and time. What's eerie is how the valley sounds, or doesn't. There's a hush here, like the world turned its volume down. No birds, no insects, not even rustling trees unless the breeze really insists. Echo hums again, this time with her head tilted toward the valley's center. It's as if she's waiting for something to answer back, but only her own voice returns, echoed soft and drawn out, bouncing off low cliffs like it's reluctant to leave her. You take a few steps away and the effect increases. Sound bends here, repeats. You hum under your breath to test it and immediately hear yourself twice a split second apart. The effect is spooky. You hum a few notes from that one sad song about stars and goodbyes. Don't lie. You know the one, and the echo comes back as if it doesn't want you to stop. This valley wasn't chosen by accident. Remember amphitheaters? Those curved Roman stone arenas where you could whisper on one end and hear it at the other. This is nature's version of that, an acoustic cradle. And here's your authoritative historical fact. Certain species of hadrosaurs, duck-billed dinosaurs, had skull crests shaped like resonating chambers. Some paleontologists believe they used them to produce deep, haunting sounds to communicate across vast distances. Maybe to warn, maybe to court, maybe like Echo just to feel less alone. You crouch beside a ring of stone fragments and half-buried feathers. Another nest older than Echo's, its eggs long gone. Crushed shells glint faintly beneath dust. You reach down. One shard is paper-thin but wide, patterned with ridges like a fingerprint. When you hold it up to your ear, you swear you can still hear something. A faint whir or thrum, probably your own pulse. Probably. Here's the off-topic moment. You didn't ask for the lyrebird. In Australia can mimic chainsaws. Chainsaws. It also mimics camera shutters, crying babies and barking dogs. And you thought your noisy neighbor was annoying. Evolution doesn't care if it's beautiful, it only cares if it works. Echo begins to hum again, louder now. Her throat pouch inflates like a bellows. The song this time is higher, layered with trills. It skips off the valley walls like a skipping stone, bouncing from side to side, until it wraps the whole clearing in an invisible cocoon. You feel it in your teeth, your ribs. The air itself tightens, then softens. That egg from yesterday, the one that twitched, it rolls. Echo responds immediately, lowers her head, and lets out a fluttery warble that's part bird, part cough, part lullaby. You swear you see the tip of something inside the egg, a shadow moving against the leathery shell. A claw, a beak. Whatever it is, it knows the song. Historians still debate whether early dinosaurs could hear inside the egg. Some suggest vibrations were more important than sound waves, the way a fetus today can detect its mother's heartbeat before it can hear her voice. If true, then maybe the first lullabies weren't meant to be heard at all, but felt. The wind picks up again. Dry leaves tumble through the air like forgotten notes. You walk to the edge of the valley, tracing the curving spine of the terrain. You find another abandoned nest, no shells here, just bone fragments. Some large, some delicate, some chewed. Whatever left this nest didn't go quietly. You glance back. Echo keeps humming. The egg rolls again. Another one follows. You count 3 shifting now. Maybe more. There's a tension in the air. Not danger. Not yet. But anticipation. It's like watching an orchestra raise their bows. Like waiting for the first drop of rain on a window pane. You sit back, trying to picture what this moment would look like if you could see sound. Lines of vibration pulsing outward. Spirals of tone wrapping around the nest. Threads of humming connecting creature to egg to earth to sky. You remember a documentary once saying that whales sing entire symphonies underwater, songs that last hours, maybe days. Maybe these dinosaur lullabies were part of something like that. A ritual. A performance. A promise. Echo adjusts her position, curling around the eggs again. One claw traces a slow circle around the largest egg's base, as if drawing a note only she can read. She hums a final phrase and falls silent. You hold your breath. Nothing happens. Then something does. From across the valley, another note rises. Distant, uncertain, but familiar. Another singer. Echo lifts her head. Her crest trembles. She listens not just with ears, but with her whole frame. Then she answers. A long, rising call, part greeting, part challenge, part duet invitation. There are others here after all, maybe even watching from behind those ridges. Maybe waiting to see if her eggs hatch first. Or just listening like you from the dark. Either way, the valley has awoken, and it remembers the sound. You don't move right away, not because you're scared. Okay, maybe a little. But because the sound that just came from beyond the ridge is not what you expected. It wasn't just another hum or trill. It was longer, sharper. It bent downward in pitch like something fallen slowly through water. There was a tremble at the end, like the sound caught on the edge of a something. A cracked throat. A different species. You're not sure. Echo shifts slightly but doesn't get up. That tells you something. Whatever made that sound, she's heard it before. And it doesn't scare her. Maybe she even likes it. You wait eyes on the far side of the valley, half expecting some majestic feathered titan to stride over the ridge like it's late to a choir rehearsal. But nothing appears. Just wind. Just silence. So you turn back to Echo. She's standing now, slowly, carefully, letting her wings stretch as she leans forward to check the eggs. Her movement is oddly elegant for something with 3-inch claws and joints that bend like broken scissors. She doesn't poke or peck. She listens. Her skull tilts, angling toward the eggs like she's aligning herself to them. You get a better look at her body in this light. She's about the size of a large ostrich, maybe a bit taller, and built with the kind of hollow-boned efficiency that evolution loves to show off. Her neck curves like a violin scroll, and her tail stays low, counterbalancing her weight as she leans forward. Here's a wild fact for your next awkward dinner party. Some dinosaurs had asymmetrical ear openings just like owls today. That means directional hearing, a built-in GPS for sound. So if Echo hears something behind one egg, she knows exactly where to direct her next lullaby. And speaking of sound, here's something that still messes with paleontologists today. The bones of some theropods, including Echo's likely cousins, show signs of intricate air sac systems, similar to modern birds. That means airflow could move through them in weird ways, creating resonance points throughout the body. You could argue that these creatures didn't just make sound, they were instruments. Which brings us to that throat pouch. Echo hums again, softer this time. You can see the vibration move from her chest up into that pouch, an expanding sac just under the jaw, almost translucent when the sun hits it right. Inside, there's a lattice of cartilage and thin muscle. She tightens and loosens it with such control that it feels practiced. Like she's tuning it. You want to ask who taught her to do that, because she wasn't born knowing. Some part of this was learned, passed down, refined. Maybe that's the part that gives you chills. Remember when humans evolved? We learned language, syllables, tones, rhythm. We built lullabies to calm babies, prayers to soothe storm, songs to say, "I'm still here." This dinosaur is doing all of that without even needing words. And guess what? Historians still debate whether creatures like Echo were truly bird-like in behavior or just in form. Sure, feathers and wishbones are flashy, but behavior, that's harder to fossilize. It lingers only in trace evidence, in nests, in eggshell placement, in wear patterns on bone. So we interpret, we guess. Sometimes we argue for decades. But tonight, right here, you're watching it happen. Live. The eggs begin to shift again. The smallest one tilts, then flutters. A sudden crack appears, small hairline. You gasp. Echo doesn't. She stays focused. This isn't her first clutch. She lets out a series of clicks, rapid, almost mechanical, like a Geiger counter. Click, click, click. Pause. Click, click, click. The sound bounces through the valley again. You wonder if the answer she's waiting for is inside the egg. Here's an off-topic brainworm for you. There's a type of parrot that can imitate not just human speech, but human laughter in context. If it hears someone laugh after a joke, it doesn't just copy the sound, it copies the timing. That's what separates sound from communication. Echo seems to know the difference too. She crouches beside the smallest egg now. Places one claw gently across the top, just pressure, no digging. The crack spreads like ice on a frozen pond. You lean closer. Inside, something moves. A shadowy shape, almost fluid, twitches behind the membrane. You catch a glimpse of a beak, a closed eye, the twitch of one stumpy wing. It's still curled, but it's alive. You almost whisper something, but stop. Your voice would be a rock tossed into this perfectly tuned lake of sound. Echo leans down and hums again, 3 long notes this time. The egg gives one final lurch and splits. The hatchling spills out like ink on paper. It's wet, half translucent, barely bigger than a pine cone. It chirps a broken, desperate sound like a hiccup inside a squeak. Echo immediately tucks it beneath her feathered side. Not smothering, just warming, just hiding. 2 more eggs follow. Not all at once, but soon enough that you're scrambling to keep up. Crack, chirp, shuffle, hum, repeat. Echo sings differently to each one. You don't know how you know that, but you do. It's like each hatchling has its own frequency, its own key. She adapts to them, molds her voice around their pitch. One song curves upward, another downward. A third is just a soft, repeated pulse like a heartbeat made of notes. You think this is what the first lullaby sounded like? Not a performance, not even a melody, just sound. Alive and pointed and full of meaning. The sun is higher now. The valley glows with gold and green. Insects finally return to the air. Birds, well, bird relatives, flutter overhead with uncertain chirps, as if embarrassed to interrupt. And from somewhere behind the ridge, that second voice calls again. Echo answers, once quiet and sure, then wraps her tail around her new children, closes her eyes, and lets the wind carry the rest. You wake up to a warm pressure on your leg. One of the hatchlings, maybe the bold one, maybe the confused one, has waddled over to investigate your boot. It looks like a soggy feather dart with too many toes. Its eyes are huge, dark, and vaguely judgmental. It peeps once. You freeze, not wanting to spook it, but you don't have to worry, Echo is watching. And she doesn't stop you. She does, however, make a low, vibrating coo, not unlike a throat clear from the world's most passive-aggressive librarian. The hatchling gets the message and returns to the nest, peeping its grievances all the way. Echo resumes her quiet hum, lower now. Her vocal sac barely inflates. It's become more of a background rhythm, like maternal white noise. The hatchlings curl under her body like feathery river stones. Tiny breaths syncing with hers. The valley seems to inhale with them. Now that you're close enough, you notice the nest isn't just dirt and leaves. It's a mosaic, a blend of textures and temperatures. Bits of broken shell pushed to one side. Bones, some small, some suspiciously lizard-shaped, woven in arcs like ribs. Stones that still hold faint heat from yesterday's sun, arranged in a spiral pattern that hugs the curve of the eggs. This isn't a random pile of debris. This is architecture, intentional, thoughtful. Here's your historical fact for the hour. Maiasaura, a hadrosaur known as the good mother lizard, built nests in communal groups showing signs of parental care. Fossils suggest adults returned regularly to feed and protect their young. That was back in the Cretaceous. Seems like Echo's kind weren't freelancing parenthood either. There's a science-y term for this altricial hatchlings. Babies born helpless requiring care. That's the trade-off for complex development. Birds, humans. Apparently these singing dinosaurs too. But here's what surprises you more. Echo's nest smells sweet. Not perfume sweet, not flower sweet, more like warm bark, crushed herbs, and the faint tang of mushrooms. You pick up one of the nearby leaves used in the nest lining. It's soft, reddish, and fuzzy, like moss velvet. You snap it, and it releases a sharp, piney scent. Could it be antibacterial? You didn't sign up for a botany lesson, but here you are crouching next to a prehistoric spa treatment. Maybe these leaves discourage fungus or pests. Maybe Echo's ancestors figured that out and passed it down. No one taught her this, not with language, but behavior can be inherited in motion like rhythm passed between drummers. You glance up because something odd just clicked in your brain. The nest isn't on high ground. That's weird. Most birds today nest high to avoid predators. But Echo chose a dip in the earth, a hollow. Why? You dig your fingers into the soil beside the nest. It's soft, loose. You dig deeper. At about a hand's length down, you hit something strange. A hollow pocket, dry but distinct. You pause. Is this part of the nest too? You keep digging sideways and find more of them. Tiny caves, burrows. Not big enough for Echo, not for her chicks either. Maybe for sound. You press your ear against the ground. What you hear is astonishing. There's a gentle hum, faint, constant, like a far-off generator running through stone. You lift your head. Echo isn't humming. Neither are the chicks. That's when it hits you. The nest is built over old tunnels. Maybe dug by earlier animals, maybe natural erosion, but they carry sound, subterranean echo chambers. You speak one syllable, hey, and it vanishes downward, then comes back, slower, warped, like it traveled the length of a forgotten throat and came out changed. Historians still debate whether some dinosaurs used buried structures for acoustic amplification or just lucked into them. But some fossils are found repeatedly near fault lines, burrows, and hollowed riverbeds, so maybe it wasn't just instinct. Maybe it was engineering. Echo's voice isn't just heard, it's felt. Which leads to the next question. If you were a predator, would you dare come near something that sounds like the whole earth is growling? Off-topic pause. Ever heard of the kakapo? It's a flightless parrot from New Zealand. It uses booming sounds made in chest cavities to attract mates. The low-frequency call travels miles through forest soil. That's a parrot that can flirt underground. Echo's kind, it seems, flirted with architecture. She steps carefully now, making a semicircle around the nest. Not pacing, tracing. Her claws gently nudge a stick here, a stone there. One hatchling follows her, stumbling over a patch of dry moss before toppling dramatically. Echo pauses, scoops it up with her snout, and places it gently back in the center. You swear she sighs, like every tired mom who just put the same sock back on the same kid 5 times. Then unexpectedly she sings. A new song, loud, clear. The valley answers. But not the second singer from yesterday. No, this one comes from the cliffs above. It's shorter, sharper, like a trill carved from stone. Echo goes still. Her crest feathers rise. Her eyes dart to the sky. Something's flying overhead. You duck instinctively, though you know it won't help. A shadow glides across the clearing. Long, narrow wings, a tail like a dart. Not a pterosaur. A raptor, number bigger, lighter. You don't recognize it. Echo doesn't move, but her entire body tightens. She sings again, but this time it's a harsh note. Warning. Command. The chicks freeze. One presses into her leg, another hides beneath a leaf. The third doesn't move, but it doesn't blink either. The shadow passes. Silence again. Only then does Echo exhale. That nest of hers. Not just warm, not just musical. It's a fortress. Built not of stone or wood, but of silence and sound. A perfectly tuned shell against the world. Echo's warning song still lingers in your bones. It was short, sharp, and not beautiful, but it worked. The flyer is gone. The hatchlings are still. And you've learned something important. Not all lullabies are gentle. Now she returns to her usual tone, softer, steadier, like a sigh wrapped in a hum. The kind you'd make when you finally sit down after dealing with everyone's nonsense. The chicks respond immediately. One nestles against her belly. Another climbs onto her foot, claws curled like a sleepy cat's. The third still hasn't blinked. It just stares straight ahead like it's seen things. Echo doesn't push them toward sleep this time. She shifts her voice instead. It becomes playful. Lighter, with staccato pulses and little warbles that sound almost like laughter. It's not random. There's rhythm, repetition, a melody forming from pure vibration. You sit cross-legged in the dirt, mesmerized. If someone asked you to hum it back, you could. Not because it's catchy, but because it entered you. Not just your ears, your chest, your spine. The soles of your feet. Let's hit today's historical fact. Early in 2013, paleontologists studying the internal ear structure of troodontid small bird-like dinosaurs found they had hearing ranges comparable to owls. That means acute sensitivity to frequency and pitch. Combine that with complex vocal tracts and suddenly you're looking at the ancient origin of musical communication. And here's where things get weird. You close your eyes, letting Echo's song wash over you. At first it feels calming, but then you realize something: she's not just singing to the chicks. She's singing through them. Each note reverberates through their tiny bodies, which act like soft percussion. Their bones, their hollow air sacs, their still-forming skulls, they take the sound and respond. Not with echo, but with subtle shifts. One twitch here, one shudder there, like tuning forks vibrating in sync. That's when it hits you. This isn't a lullaby. It's a language lesson. Echo is calibrating them, aligning their frequencies, teaching them what their song should be. Historians still debate whether dinosaurs imprinted vocally the way some birds and mammals do. But there's indirect evidence fossilized brain cases show development in auditory regions that suggest a capacity for learning pitch and rhythm. And if you've ever seen a baby parrot try to sing before it's ready, yeah, it's chaos. You need practice to croon. Suddenly, one chick chirps, a high-pitched squeak barely formed but purposeful. Echo replies with a harmonized echo, a matching note half a beat later. Then a second chick joins, squawking out something crooked and too loud. Echo mirrors it too, but gently corrects the pitch, like she's tuning a trio of flutes with baby feet. And then she stops, lets the silence sit for a beat. Then too, you lean forward, waiting. Nothing. Then the chicks sing. Just a few notes each, uneven, messy, but they sing, and echo beams. Not with a smile, dinosaurs aren't built for those, but with her entire posture. Her neck arches just so her tail untucks and her throat hums not outward but inward, like a satisfied whisper wrapped in bone. You whisper they're learning. And you get it now. This isn't mimicry. This is rehearsal. Off-topic fact. Incoming because it's too good to skip. Sperm whales teach their young dialects. Not just clicks and pops dialects. Different pods speak in different rhythms and calves must be trained to click properly. If whales do it underwater, why not dinosaurs on land? Echo lowers her head now, letting one chick crawl onto her snout. She lifts it slowly, then lowers it onto a warm stone. The chick chirps in confusion, then realization. The stone holds heat. It hums faintly with stored resonance. The chick peeps once, then sits. You get the feeling this is a test. And sure enough, Echo sings again, but only for the stone. The sound moves through the rock like it did the tunnels. The chick twitches, then sings back. You're witnessing feedback loops from 80 million years ago. The second chick stumbles after its sibling. It sits beside the same stone, then peeps in a pitch slightly lower. Echo adjusts. The song shifts downward. Harmony returns. You're not crying. You're just appreciating advanced parental pedagogy through emotional resonance. Let's derail this for 1 second because you need a breather. Did you know that even cockatoos can dance to the beat? Not just flap or bounce, but change rhythm, pause, restart. That's what scientists call beat perception and synchronization. Only a few species have it. Echo's kids might be among them. You rise slowly, careful not to disturb the lesson. Echo notices but doesn't stop you. She trusts you now, or at least doesn't consider you a threat. Big win. You move toward a patch of mossy rock at the edge of the clearing and sit. From here, the nest looks like a concert stage. Echo in the center, chicks as eager musicians, and the world around them as the amphitheater. You close your eyes and listen one more time. 3 chick voices, 1 steady guide, and the land itself answering back with subtle echoes. The valley isn't just a passive listener, it's part of the song. Historians still debate whether environmental acoustics shaped vocal evolution in prehistoric species. Some argue that creatures who lived in echo-rich environments developed more complex calls. Others say, nice idea, but try proving it. You say, sit where you're sitting now and listen. Echo hums a final note. The chicks fall silent. One by one they curl beneath her wing. And just before the last one drifts to sleep, it sings a single note. High, clear, confident. Echo doesn't answer. She doesn't need to. By now, you've memorized the cadence of Echo's breath. In hold, hum, exhale. It's become the valley's pulse, and yours too. The chicks are asleep mostly. One twitches its leg as if dreaming of running, though it hasn't run anywhere yet. Another chews on a feather stub, not realizing it's part of its own fluff. The third, the alert one, lies wide-eyed, staring into space like it's plotting something. The nest is quieter now, but not still, because something has changed. It begins with the eggs. 3 have already hatched, but there are 2 left smaller off to the side. You assumed they were duds. Echo didn't seem to worry about them. She focused on the hatched ones. Maybe she'd given up on these 2. Maybe she just knew something you didn't. Turns out she did. One of them just moved. Not a twitch, a definite rock. A deliberate shift like something inside just got the memo. You freeze. Echo doesn't. She hums once a note so low it's nearly below hearing range. But you feel it in the ground. A long, slow vibration. The unhatched egg responds. You hear a subtle crack, then a pause, then another. The shell moves again. Echo shifts, slightly covering the other egg with her wing, shielding it from light. You wonder why, until you realize it's not moving at all. Echo knows. She sings again, only to the moving egg. This time, it's a rising tone stretched out and mournful, like she's trying to coax it through a door it's not quite sure how to open. And here's today's historical nugget. Many modern birds begin vocalizing before hatching. Inside the egg, chicks can mimic external sounds, bond with parents, even synchronize hatching with their siblings. Scientists call this embryonic vocal imprinting. It's real. Documented, which makes this next part even more extraordinary. The rocking egg squeaks. It's muffled, wet, pathetic, but it's sound, directed. Echo answers with a sharp trill, clicks once, and leans down. She nuzzles the egg, not to crack it, but to hold it still. Her throat hums against the shell. You see the vibration pass into the membrane like ripples in glass. And the chick inside chirps again, faster now. Then, with one loud crack, the top of the egg breaks open. A wet, pale hatchling bursts through wings, flailing legs, kicking wildly like it's auditioning for a kung fu reboot. Echo keeps her head low, doesn't interfere, just hums, softly modulating with every kick guiding it out like a midwife made of music. This chick is different, larger than the others, not stronger, just older. You can see more defined features already. A longer beak, fewer fluffy feathers. Its eyes open immediately. It does not blink. It stares at Echo with total recognition. And Echo, well, she hums a new tone. One you haven't heard yet. Deeper, resonant, like a greeting between long-lost friends. You can't help but whisper, they know each other. Historians still debate whether non-mammalian dinosaurs formed emotional bonds beyond instinct. Most fossil evidence is physical nests, brooding positions, sometimes preserved families. But emotional nuance, that's harder to find in stone. Yet what you're seeing here is unmistakable. This isn't just maternal care, it's reunion. You shift your gaze to the final egg. Still untouched, still silent. And suddenly you know. Echo knows too. She doesn't sing to it, doesn't even look at it. Her hum dims. She moves slightly away, placing her wing between the new hatchling and that last unmoving shell. The other chicks rouse now. One squeaks at the newcomer. Another climbs over Echo's tail. The alert one gives the new sibling a long, judgmental sniff. The newest hatchling doesn't respond. It doesn't join the others. Instead, it stares up, not at Echo, not at you, at the sky, like it knows something the rest of us don't. You sit back a little overwhelmed. This wasn't just a hatching, it was a performance, and every note and every movement had purpose. Here's your off-topic curveball. There's a species of cuttlefish that communicates using waves of colored light across its skin. It can send one signal to a rival and a completely different one to a mate at the same time. Dual-layered messages, complexity beyond comprehension. Echo might be doing the same with her voice. One song for the chicks, another for the land, and maybe a third for herself. The sun climbs higher. The valley warms. Shadows stretch like sleepy limbs across the fern canopy. You see motion near the ridgeline again, but this time it's small. A few bird-like creatures watching, not predators, just curious, silent. They too are learning. Echo shifts her stance, finally acknowledging you. She lets out a short pulse, a sound you haven't heard before. Flat, clean, final. A signal. She's done singing for now. The chicks nestle. The largest one lies half and half out of the broken shell like it hasn't decided whether to join this new world or crawl back into its old one. The final egg doesn't move. You realize this is how the song ends. Not with a finale, not with applause, but with silence that means something. You remain still. Because this quiet, it deserves reverence. You don't move for a long time. The air around you has shifted. The hum is gone. The earth feels heavier somehow, like Echo poured herself into the song and now having stopped the silence is denser than before. The chicks fidget under her wing, not ready for sleep, not quite awake. The large newcomer hasn't budged since hatching. The final egg remains cold and still, but something's coming. It begins as a rhythm you don't hear so much as notice. The same way you know someone's standing behind you before they speak. It's in the branches, in the twitch of the smallest chick's claws, in the way Echo's head lifts slowly, carefully scanning the line of trees. She doesn't sing. She listens. You do too. Nothing. Then snap, a branch. Echo's pupils dilate. She raises her tail an inch, signaling something invisible. You see her throat twitch, but she does not hum. No lullaby this time. Only stillness. Then you see it. A shape moving low through the underbrush. Not slithering, not stomping, gliding. Like a shadow learning how to walk. You squint. Your brain refuses to make sense of it. Too low to be a predator, you know. Too slow to be panicked. It's blind. You can't see eyes. Just a face like a carved wedge of bark, and a body covered in muted branching scales. It weaves between roots without pause, as if it can feel your heartbeat and knows where not to step. Echo lowers her head but doesn't retreat. Her wings stay half open, a silent warning. The chicks sense it too. All three freeze. Even the bold one. Even the weird ones. And then you remember this valley was designed for sound. So what if something evolved here that hunted by it? Here's today's historical fact. One to file under sleep nightmare fuel. The extinct predator. Therocephalia. A group of proto-mammals had complex inner ears and evidence of silent low-to-the-ground movement. Think of them as ancient stalkers, not always big, but clever, patient, and potentially listening. Historians still debate whether there were fully nocturnal predators in the Cretaceous with echolocation-like strategies. Some argue that specialized low-frequency hearing adaptations were common in prey, implying a sound-sensitive hunting environment. You're watching Exhibit A, maybe even B through Z. The thing in the bushes doesn't attack. It waits. Echo takes a step forward. Not aggressive, just dominant. A presence. The hum starts again, but it's not for the chicks this time. This hum is lower, sharper. You feel it in your teeth. You feel it in your knees. The creature stops. Echo adjusts the pitch down, then down again, until it becomes a kind of growling pressure. The air warps. The thing retreats. Not far, but enough. She keeps the tone steady for another minute, then lets it fade. You feel like clapping, but don't. It's not over yet. Echo waits 5 more minutes, maybe 10. Then finally she turns back to the nest. The chicks relax. The large one lifts its head and looks around like it just now realized the world exists. The smallest starts to peep again. You whisper, "What was that?" Echo hums softly in reply. Not to you, to the earth. A sound that says, "I'm still here." And maybe for now that's enough. Let's drift sideways for a second. Did you know elephants use infrasound low-frequency vibrations that travel through the ground to communicate over miles? They hear with their feet responding to signals that never even touch the air. Sound as survival. Sound as surveillance. Echo's been doing the same. She built her nest not just with materials but with acoustics. She sings into the tunnels, hears the echoes, reads the land. And when something silent approaches, she meets silence with vibration. Because not all music is for melody, sometimes it's for warning. You look around the clearing now with new eyes. The ridges are angled not just for shelter but reflection. The stones aren't just for warmth, they resonate. And the leaves. Those reddish soft ones, they dampen sound. A prehistoric sound booth built from instinct and inherited memory. You crouch beside one of the tunnel holes again, speak softly into it. Hello, your voice echoes back with added warmth, like it passed through an old friend before returning. And that's when you hear it. Not a predator, not echo, a song from deep underground. Faint, ancient, but real. Not hers, someone else's. A relative, a rival. A recorder of the past. Echo doesn't react. She's heard it before. You think that's why she chose this place. Not because it's safe, but because it remembers. She hums one last phrase. It curves upward, full of breath and softness. The danger has passed, for now. The chicks stretch. The bold one stumbles across your foot again. Echo lets it. Even gives you a glance that might be trust, or amusement, or just resignation. Then she settles once more, wrapping her body around the nest tail curved like a question mark, wings draped like blankets. Her song drifts downward again, calmer, slower, gentle. But now you know even a lullaby can be a weapon. By the next evening, you've begun to think in vibrations. Not consciously, your thoughts haven't started humming, but you notice rhythms in everything now. The drip of water off fern tips, the rustle click of insects. Even your breath begins to feel like part of Echo's atmosphere, syncing with the rise and fall of her endless low melodies. You're lying near the edge of the nest on a soft patch of moss that might as well be a front row seat. Echo hums to her chicks in brief intervals. Now, not constant, not frantic, just check-ins. Like the occasional backseat okay back there, every parent learns to mumble on instinct. But tonight her hums take a different shape. They go down instead of up. And the sound doesn't travel outward. It travels down, into the soil. You sit up alert. Echo doesn't look at you. She hums again, slightly longer this time, and tilts her head as if listening to her own echo. You crouch beside a shallow groove carved into the dirt near the nest. You hadn't noticed it before. It looks natural at first, like a dried stream bed, but the angle is too precise. You press your palm to the ground. The vibration is stronger than yesterday, and this time you realize there's more than one frequency. Multiple hums, layered. You crawl a few paces away, then press your ear against the soil. And there it is, a low, hollow chamber beneath you. A system of burrows or tunnels, ancient and sprawling. You speak just a whisper and your own voice comes back warped, thicker, as if you dropped it into water and scooped it out cold. Echo steps closer to you, standing perfectly still now. She lets out a soft, sustained tone that doesn't rise or fall. It just is. It enters the soil like a tuning fork struck against ancient bone. You look up. She's not singing to the chicks. She's scanning. Here's your historical fix. Fossilized evidence shows that many nesting sites of oviraptorosaurs and troodontids were located on shallow, sandy ridges with high water tables, ideal not just for heat but for resonance. The substrate acted like a speaker membrane, meaning some species might have used vibration as a form of territorial or parental communication, or perhaps surveillance. Historians still debate whether early dinosaurs could intentionally exploit geological features for sound, but sites in Mongolia and Argentina suggest patterns that are hard to explain away as luck. And Echo, she's not guessing. She hums again, longer this time, a resonant pulse that shifts in texture mid-note. You don't hear an echo back, but she does. She reacts, tilts her head toward a patch of stone, and taps it once with her claw. It rings like porcelain. Echo's found something. You follow her gaze. A nearby mound, covered in moss. Nothing dramatic, just a lump, really, but she walks to it and sits beside it, silent, waiting. The bold chick follows her, peeping indignantly, as if to say, We're doing this now? The others remain at the nest. You join her crouching beside the mound. Something about it looks familiar. You brush away the moss. It's not a mound. It's an old nest. Long abandoned, half collapsed, but unmistakable in its arrangement. A shallow basin of hardened earth, cracked stones, and faint grooves that once held eggs. Echo hums again, short, sad. The sound doesn't vibrate much. The ground beneath this one is dead. And then it clicks, this is a grave. Or maybe a monument. Echo lets the chick peck at the edges, then nudges it back. She hums a final time, soft and brief, like a farewell note. Then she returns to her own nest. You stay, because your curiosity is now properly cursed. You reach into the center of the old nest, scraping away more dirt. Your fingers hit something brittle. You expect bone. It's not. It's shell, leathery and dry but still whole. An egg that never hatched. And beside it, a second. Your breath catches. These weren't abandoned. They were preserved. You sit back, staring. Echo knew they were here. She built her nest near them on purpose. Not for warmth, for memory. And here's the off-topic mind twist. African elephants are known to visit the bones of their dead. They don't just smell them, they touch them, nudge them, return to the same spots over years. Call it mourning, call it curiosity, but something lingers. Echo's species might have done the same. This valley with its tunnels and echoes and buried lullabies might have been more than a nesting ground. It might have been a cemetery. Echo returns to the nest and curls around her chicks again. She doesn't hum now. She listens. One of the hatchlings mumbles a note in its sleep, a dreamy little blip of song. Echo echoes it softly, then falls silent. The air shifts again, and you feel it. A hum rising from deep in the tunnels, not from Echo, not from the chicks, from somewhere far below. You can't tell if it's real, or if you're just tuned in too far. But you swear it sounds like an old song. One that was started a long time ago and never finished. And tonight, you're hearing the next verse. You wake to the sound of wind mimicking bones. It whistles through the upper canopy, bending the trees just enough to make them creak like old ships. The leaves rustle in uneven waves, never quite steady, never quite predictable. If you didn't know better, you'd think the forest was trying to say something. But you do know better. And still you wonder. Echo's already awake. She hasn't hummed yet this morning. Instead, she stands perfectly still beside the nest, watching the forest with her neck lowered and her eyes narrowed. Not fear, not alertness. Concentration. She listens. One chick chirps softly in its sleep, another sneezes. The bold one bites a twig with what you can only describe as enthusiasm. Echo doesn't respond. Her attention is elsewhere. Then she hums, but it's not her lullaby. It's something different. Short bursts. Sharp, almost staccato. You recognize some of the notes. They sound like the creaking trees, the whistling wind. She's copying it. You glance around. She repeats the call. Short, deliberate imitations of the landscape soundscape. And then it hits you. Echo isn't just singing, she's mimicking. Not to entertain, to blend in. Here's your historical insight for the day. Recent studies on hadrosaur crest cavities suggest they may have produced a wide variety of sounds, including low-frequency calls that could have resembled environmental noise. Mimicry in nature isn't new. Think of the lyrebird again, but evidence that non-avian dinosaurs may have done it. That's far more controversial. Historians still debate whether mimicry was deliberate or coincidental, if it served as camouflage communication or confusion. The answer might lie right here in Echo's throat. She adjusts her pitch again higher now, like the distant call of an insect or a reed flute bending in heat. It's beautiful and terrifying because it doesn't sound like a dinosaur. It sounds like nothing at all, or everything. One chick stirs, tries to mimic the new tone, fails adorably, and peeps in protest. Echo hums in reply, soft and round again. A reassurance. Then the wind shifts, and something snaps in the forest beyond. A branch numb. A pattern breaks. Echo stiffens. She gives a short, harsh click and the chicks immediately huddle. Even the bold one. You don't question it, you press flat to the ground, listening. Then you hear it. Not footfalls, not growls, just absence. The kind of quiet that happens when predators learn to move silently. And Echo hums again. This time the song is weird. It sounds like wind. It sounds like bugs. It sounds like tree limbs groaning. You'd miss it if you didn't already know what to listen for. But Echo is painting sound disguising her nest inside a symphony of ambient mimicries. It's camouflage. She sings the landscape into being. And it works. The approaching quiet passes. Whatever was there, whatever stalked the clearing, misses the nest entirely. Because it didn't hear it, Echo silences her mimicry gradually. The fake creaks taper off. The hiss of false wind dies. The forest resets. The real breeze returns. You exhale. That's when you notice something buried beneath the nest. A cluster of small twigs arranged deliberately like spokes on a wheel. At the center is a hollow reed cut clean, placed intentionally. Echo leans toward it and hums into it. The reed amplifies her tone. You hear it buzz, then shift pitch, then stop, as if it only works on certain frequencies, or answers specific voices. You whisper she's built instruments. Here's your off-topic wonder of the day. Some New Guinea birds use leaves and bark as megaphones, amplifying their mating calls through primitive tools. They don't just make noise, they manipulate how that noise moves through space. Echo might be doing the same, using natural tools to project, distort, or hide her calls. The reed buzzes again. You put your ear close. Inside, you hear nothing. But you feel the sound. A tight pulse, rhythmic and strange like coded music. You step back. The chicks are up now, tumbling over one another in a pile of fluffy chaos. The largest one doesn't play, just watches Echo intently. It tilts its head every time she hums. It doesn't echo her. It memorizes her. Then it sings. Not a random chirp, not a peep, a note. The same one she used to fool the predator. And Echo beams again in that way she does with her posture, not her face. Historians still debate whether complex vocal mimicry evolved before or after flight. The assumption was always first they flew, then they sang. But Echo's kind didn't fly. Yet they still sang. Still mimicked, still learned. Maybe flight wasn't the origin of song. Maybe danger was. The ability to sound like something you weren't to vanish in noise could have come first. Echo curls around her nest again. The chicks follow. She hums the mimic song once more, quieter now. The nest dissolves into the forest soundscape again as if it never existed. And tonight, if something listens from the ridge, it will hear nothing but wind. The stars return tonight, scattered across the sky like flecks of eggshell left behind after a hatching too large to clean up. You lie back on the cool moss, arms crossed behind your head, watching their flickering procession as the forest breathes in waves around you. Echo is quieter than usual. Not silent, never that, but she's humming less. Her voice has shifted again, lower, slower, like she's practicing something she hasn't sung in a long time. The chicks sleep beside her, even the big one. No twitching, no peeping, just three soft bodies curled into the familiar curve of her wing. You scoot closer, listening. The melody she's playing with tonight is unfamiliar. It doesn't match the rhythms you've learned. It's more structured, like a refrain, a chorus. Each phrase repeats slightly varied. You're listening to a dinosaur sing in verses, and you're about to find out why. Echo's nest sits at the edge of a shallow rise. Earlier today, you cleared away a bit of underbrush there just to see what was underneath. What you found was flat stone, cracked and sun-dried, but unmistakably shaped. Not natural, not exactly, like someone or something pressed something into it long ago. Fossil beds often start this way. Tonight, with Echo's music drifting through the air like dust in a sunbeam, you kneel beside that stone and gently scrape it clean. And there it is, a shape, pressed into the stone. A skeleton, bird-like, but not a bird. Its skull is long and narrow, its limbs delicate. You can't name it, but you can guess. It's not Echo. It's something older, lighter, with bones that resonate just looking at them. Its throat unusually is preserved, and at its base a ring of fused bone no one expected to find. A syrinx, the voice box of modern birds, long thought to be absent in non-avian dinosaurs. But here it is, in stone, waiting. Here's your hard-hitting historical twist. Until recently, the syrinx, the structure that lets birds sing complex songs, was believed to be a relatively late invention in evolution. But a fossil discovered in Antarctica from the Mesozoic era changed that. It showed an early version of the syrinx in a bird-like dinosaur species. Historians still debate whether this syrinx was capable of the range modern birds use, or if it was simply an early whistle. But the implications were seismic. It meant that dinosaurs may have sung before they flew. And now you're staring at proof. Embedded in this ridge, Echo's kind didn't invent song. They inherited it. You whisper the thought aloud, half dreaming, maybe they never stopped singing. Behind you, Echo hums again. Not soft, not hidden, but bright, carried on the night like a torch held high. And then something clicks. The melody she's using, the repeated phrases, the pauses, they match the structure of the fossil's throat. She's not just singing to her chicks. She's singing a memory. A song passed down in flesh and bone and vibration. A song shaped by the very bones you're staring at. Suddenly, the air feels heavy with ghosts. Not in a haunted way, in a continuity kind of way. Like you're sitting in the chorus of an opera that began 90 million years ago, and someone just handed you the next line. You sit back dazed. Echo continues. She adds a flourish, 3 short trills at the end. It makes the bold chick twitch in its sleep, little legs kicking the air like it's dreaming of flight. The big one stirs but doesn't wake. You wonder what this song means to her. Is it grief celebration or just the only thing she knows to sing in this moment? Do her kind remember the ones who came before by echoing their voices, by mimicking the shape of old songs passed down not as words but resonance? Let's pause for a weird, real-world fact. Humpback whales halfway across the planet from one another have been known to pick up new songs and spread them across entire ocean populations in a matter of years. Not instinctual songs, newly learned compositions. And they're whales. Echo may be doing the same, not just singing, but transmitting. The valley around you hums in sympathetic response. A few birds rustle in the branches. One attempts to mimic Echo's final trill. It fails, miserably, but tries again. Echo doesn't respond. She doesn't have to. The message has already been sent. You glance once more at the fossil. The throat bones seem almost to shimmer in the moonlight. You think this is how you pass things down when you don't have paper or fire or internet. You sing them forward. Echo finishes her verse. The silence that follows is full of meaning. The chicks stir. The bold one wakes and chirps once. Echo responds with a hum that now sounds different, grounded, tired, satisfied. Then she sleeps, and in her sleep she hums once more, a final note, perfectly pitched to the bones below. You wake to a sound you can't place. It isn't birdsong, not wind, not leaves. It's mechanical rhythmic, like distant drums muffled by moss. You sit up, heart-thudding instinct already asking if it's time to run, but then Echo shifts and the sound matches her movement. It wasn't coming from far away. It was coming from her. She's vocalizing again, but without opening her beak. Her chest cavity expands and contracts, forcing air through something deep inside. A pressure-driven resonance. You remember the syrinx fossil and realize this isn't ordinary breathwork. This is internal percussion. You crawl closer slowly, careful not to snap twigs or interrupt the rhythm. The chicks are gathered at her feet, watching, not moving, not making a sound, not even blinking. The big one looks half-entranced eyes, wide body still. Then suddenly Echo stops. The sound doesn't. The nest is vibrating. You press your hand to the ground and feel it immediately. A low droning pulse, steady circular coming from beneath. Not an earthquake, not thunder, a deliberate signal. Echo remains still, eyes half closed, posture relaxed. She knows this vibration. She's waiting for it to pass. You whisper, "What is that?" And the answer rises from the dirt. It's not a creature. It's the land itself remembering something. The tunnels under the valley. The buried nests. The hollowed earth. They're acting like an ancient soundboard. Something, maybe the rain last night, maybe the rising temperature has awakened a dormant frequency. And it's answering Echo's hum. Echo doesn't move, but she changes her breathing. Faster now. Shorter inhales. A pulse of pressure that shifts the pitch of the resonance. Not random, intentional. A dialogue, like tuning into a radio station that never quite turned off. Here's your historical brain bomb for today. In 2016, researchers found a syrinx fossil belonging to Vegavis iuae, a Cretaceous bird. It suggested advanced vocalization existed even before the extinction event. But what shocked them most? The fossil's vocal anatomy was asymmetrical, meaning the animal could likely produce multiple notes simultaneously. Harmonics, like an organ. Now imagine Echo with a similar system. She's not just humming, she's harmonizing with something underground, or someone. Historians still debate whether prehistoric creatures responded to seismic cues. Some say they might have communicated over long distances through the ground, especially in environments with open plains or loose sediment. What you're feeling now suggests they might have used it musically. The vibrations peak. Echo lets out a sudden click-click trill, and the ground responds. The nest shudders not violently, but enough to make you sit upright. The chicks stumble, then chirp in unison. Echo hums, then silences them with a short exhale. The ground settles. The bold chick sneezes. The big one finally blinks. The little one climbs into its sibling's feathers like it wants no part in this seismic karaoke. Echo steps away from the nest. Slowly, respectfully, she walks to the patch of stone you cleared earlier where the syrinx fossil lies hidden beneath its blanket of time. She hums again. This time it's different. The sound curves, wobbles, trembles. It's hard to describe a sound that feels like it's remembering itself in real time. You feel it in your sternum, your molars, the soles of your feet. The fossil vibrates. You kneel beside it, eyes wide. The stone itself pulses, not moving but shimmering with invisible pressure. You place your ear close. There's no voice inside, no song. Just response, like it's trying to resonate again. Echo stops. The fossil goes quiet. You sit back stunned. She wasn't singing to it. She was singing with it. Off topic. Sure. But relevant in 2014, scientists used sound waves to recreate the resonance of a 9,000-year-old conch shell horn. It still played 3 distinct notes. That's right, an ancient shell remembered how to sing. So why not bone? Echo returns to the nest. Her steps are slow now, tired. She curls herself around the chicks, but she doesn't hum. She listens. You realize something strange. Her silence is also part of the song, because the land is still singing, faintly, somewhere in the depths. The tunnel system beneath this ridge has become a prehistoric echo chamber, and somewhere in it, something is still vibrating. A song unfinished. You lie back on the moss, eyes to the stars. Above you, light. Below you, sound. Around you, the memory of a voice box that shouldn't exist yet does. Echo lets out one final breath. It vibrates the air like a sigh made of dust. And in that moment, you understand she wasn't named Echo because of what she hears. She's named for what she leaves behind. Night has stretched thin like old leather pulled too far across a frame. The stars are fewer now, dimmed by mist, and the moon has slid behind a sheet of pale gauzy clouds. Somewhere in the distance, water drips. Once every 7 seconds, you've counted. Echo isn't singing tonight. She sits motionless, flanked by sleeping chicks, her breath shallow and rhythm steady. The air is still and the ground no longer hums. It's eerie, not quiet, just empty. You miss the sound more than you thought you would. You stand and move away from the nest just far enough to reach the far slope of the ridge. This is where you first heard the distant calls, that mysterious second voice that rose from the other side of the valley. You haven't heard it since. Maybe it left, or maybe it's still listening. You press your ear to the ground. Nothing. You try humming a simple tone just like echo, a low note, flat, awkward, the kind of sound you'd be embarrassed to make if anyone else were around. But here it feels reverent. The dirt doesn't answer. It's like the world's holding its breath. You return to the nest. Echo's eyes are open. She watches you, not expectant, just aware, like she's waiting for you to figure something out. You sit beside her. I think you whisper, "We thought dinosaurs were mute because we couldn't hear them." And that's the truth, isn't it? Here's your historical reality check. For decades, paleontology assumed that non-avian dinosaurs were largely silent. No vocal cords, VODs, no evidence of complex calls. The image was of beasts who roared, hissed, or maybe croaked, but nothing more. But new fossil finds ossified syrinx fragments, inner ear structures, even skull air passages are rewriting that narrative. We now know that many of these creatures had the hardware. What we're still piecing together is the software, how they used it. Historians still debate the validity of syrinx evidence. Some say it's too rare to generalize. Others argue we've simply been looking in the wrong fossils or listening in the wrong frequencies. And perhaps that's it. Maybe the silence wasn't theirs. Maybe it was ours. You remember a paleontology lecture from years ago? A throwaway line from a tired professor. Absence of evidence isn't evidence of absence unless you're looking for song and stone. That same professor laughed at the idea of dinosaur lullabies. You think of echo, still, present, humming to the ground instead of the sky. You lean down to one of the chicks now, softly chirping, in sleep, tiny breaths making its throat flutter, and realize something almost laughable: the chick is dreaming. It sings in bursts, not full songs, just fragments. But they match Echo's older melodies, and you get it now. She isn't teaching by repetition. She's teaching by exposure. The chicks are imprinting on the tone, pitch, and structure of her environment, just like human infants babble in patterns long before forming words. Just like songbirds train their vocal muscles months before their first duet. Here's your weird, off-topic moment of the day. In the wild, some Australian superb fairy wrens teach their chicks a secret vocal password from inside the egg. Only chicks that sing the password get fed. Brutal, brilliant. Musical security systems evolved from prehistoric lullabies. Maybe Echo's people invented the first musical key. You sit back staring at her. She hums again finally. Not loud, not to you, to the unmoving egg. Yes, it's still here, unhatched, unstirring. You'd forgotten it. Maybe Echo had too. But tonight, she hums just for it. A single rising tone, gentle, mournful, deliberate. And in the silence that follows, nothing. No twitch, no breath, no chirp, just the memory of what could have been. Echo doesn't push the egg, doesn't nudge it, just places one claw beside it. Not touching, not expecting. It isn't neglect, it's respect. She's grieving, quietly, musically. You feel intrusive just watching. She hums again, the same note, just once. Then she walks away, leaving the unhatched egg where it lies. She doesn't look back. You do. You expect to feel sorrow, but instead you feel continuity. Because that note she hummed, the one just for the unhatched, it's now being repeated by the largest chick, softly, in sleep. The sibling sings the goodbye. You whisper to yourself, she didn't just sing to her egg, she gave it a funeral song. Echo rests again, not curled, not alert, just tired. The nest returns to stillness, and you listen harder than ever. Because now you know the silence we thought dinosaurs lived in. It was just sound we didn't yet understand. Dawn arrives late. Not because the sun is lazy, though honestly it might be, but because the sky is thick with haze. A low orange glow seeps across the valley like someone spilled ember light across the horizon. Everything is quieter today, duller, as if the air itself forgot how to echo. You notice it first in the way Echo doesn't move. She's not asleep, her eyes are open, her head is raised, but she's still rigid. Her nostrils flare once, then twice. She lifts one claw barely, tests the ground. You follow her lead. The soil is cold, colder than it should be. There's a faint sting in your throat when you breathe in. Dry chemical unfamiliar. Not smoke, not dust. Something subtler, but something wrong. The chicks wake slowly. One stretches. Another chirps once, then stops mid-note. The bold one coughs a weird sound like a hiccup with static. You look up. The sky is wrong. Not just hazy, tinted. A strange, bruised gray-orange that doesn't belong in this timeline. Echo hums once. Short, flat, no melody, just a pulse. She's not singing anymore. She's signaling. You scan the ridges, the forest beyond. No movement, no predators. But even the wind has stopped. The valley feels suspended. Here's your factual gut punch. Toward the end of the Cretaceous, global temperatures, spiked weather patterns shifted, and volcanic activity increased. Before the asteroid ever touched down, the world was already changing. Fossil evidence from India's Deccan Traps shows massive eruptions releasing clouds of sulfur and carbon dioxide enough to affect global ecosystems for years. Food chains buckled, skies dimmed, climate rhythms broke. Historians still debate which extinction pressure was worst, the asteroid, the volcanoes, or the slow unraveling of food webs. But most agree life got quieter before it ended. Today you feel that quiet seeping in. Echo doesn't move to eat, doesn't nudge her chicks. She watches the sky. You do too. Then you hear it, nothing. No birds, no insects, not even distant rustling. The bold chick peeps. The big one shifts closer to Echo. The smallest one climbs into her feathers like it wants to disappear entirely. Echo hums again, lower, longer. It vibrates against the ground but doesn't come back, no reflection. The tunnels are muted. You crawl to the reed instrument, hoping for resonance. You hum into it. Nothing. The stone you uncovered days ago, the one with the Syrinx fossil, doesn't respond either. It just sits there, cold, silent. You whisper, "What's happening?" But the air swallows your words. Off topic but eerily relevant, in 1883, the eruption of Krakatoa produced pressure waves so intense that weather stations in Europe recorded the disturbance days later. In some areas, sounds were silenced completely. Birds fell from the sky. Whispers could no longer carry. You think what happens to an animal who depends on sound when the sky forgets how to echo. Echo doesn't panic. She just lowers her head and gathers the chicks tighter. She hums again, this time more insistently. A stronger vibration forced from her chest. The sound tries to enter the soil, but it doesn't come back. She hums again, louder. Still nothing. You feel it like a gut punch. The valley's song chamber is gone. The underground tunnels aren't answering. The ancient soundboard has gone dead. Echo finally stands. Not dramatically, just firmly. She lifts her head, scanning the ridgeline. The second singer you once heard across the valley gone. No duets, no rivals, no neighbors. You're witnessing something that has no name. Not an extinction, not yet, but a fading. The ecosystem. The soundscape, the rhythm of a world that once sang, is falling quiet. And what's most haunting, the chicks don't notice. They still chirp, still nestle, still mimic Echo's older melodies. The bold one even tries a trill, then laughs at its own soundless effort. But Echo hears it. Her face doesn't change, but her shoulders sink slightly. You know the look. Parents all over time have worn it. I hear you, but no one else will. Historians still debate how aware prehistoric creatures were of their extinction. We assume they simply faded out, no knowledge, no story, no grief. But you're watching something that suggests otherwise. You're watching a creature realize that the song is ending. And it's the kind of quiet that doesn't come from stillness. It comes from loss. Echo doesn't return to the nest. She walks a few paces uphill toward the edge of the valley. She sings once one clear note, rich and haunting. It's a test. It doesn't echo, not even a whisper. She stays there for a long time. Maybe she's waiting. Maybe she's remembering what the world used to sound like. The chicks pile together, drowsy, unaware. You sit in the dirt, hearing your own breath louder than ever before. And suddenly you wonder, if a lullaby echoes in a valley that no longer answers, does it still mean someone is listening? By afternoon, the haze thickens into a sour fog. It's not smoke. It doesn't sting the eyes. It doesn't even smell like fire. It smells sterile, empty, like dry stone rubbed into the back of your throat. You sit on the same moss-covered rock you've claimed for the past few nights, but it's quieter now. The rock doesn't vibrate under you. The earth beneath doesn't carry any hum. Echo hasn't sung in hours. The chicks are restless, not frightened, just off rhythm. They chirp without coordination call, without feedback. The bold one keeps trying to mimic the echo song, but gives up halfway through every time. The big one sits wings curled, watching Echo's every twitch. She's pacing now, slowly, methodically. You've never seen her pace before, and there's something odd about the way she walks. She's avoiding certain parts of the ground. You wouldn't notice unless you knew her patterns. But she steps carefully, always between small depressions in the dirt. You finally get up and follow her movements. She hums again, but not for long, just enough to test the soil, just enough to feel the absence of answer. She's mapping the silence, and you realize she's looking for sound. That's the difference now. She's not singing to comfort the chicks. She's not broadcasting warning. She's searching for any place that still listens. Here's today's paleontological punchline. A recent study on titanosaurs showed that fossilized eggs were sometimes arranged in spiral or grid patterns, not randomly. Some believe this was to optimize incubation. Others think it may have been acoustic. Yes, acoustic nesting, a way to shape the sound around the eggs. Historians still debate this theory. Was it intentional or incidental? Evolutionary accident or design? But if Echo's behavior is any clue, sound wasn't just survival, it was infrastructure. She circles a third time, finds a spot, and sings. Not loudly, not hopefully, just enough to see if anything answers. It doesn't. The soil is dead here too. She doesn't sigh, doesn't cry. She just moves on. Checks another place. Sings again. Gets nothing. You follow in silence, one step behind. Eventually, she stops at the base of a rock outcropping and crouches low. It's the highest part of the ridge, a sloped bank that overlooks the whole valley. From here, you can see where the nest sits, where the fossil rests, where the earth has cracked, and where the fog has settled. She lets out a hum, a long, full-throated pulse of everything she has left. It climbs, it wavers, it reaches. But there's no echo, no harmony, no reflection. Just the flat return of silence, unwrinkled and unwilling. The bold chick calls from the nest, twice, louder the second time. Echo doesn't answer. You crouch beside her. You want to say something, but there's nothing to say. This isn't your moment. It's hers, maybe her kind's last. She closes her eyes, and for a long time, nothing happens. Then you feel it, a low rumble, not from her, from far away. It begins as a shiver beneath your feet, then a slow crawling tremor through the rock. Echo opens her eyes. Her feathers twitch. The chicks scatter slightly. You scan the sky, still gray, still dead. But the air has changed. Not brighter, heavier, like pressure building inside a sealed room. Echo stands. She gives a warning trill, short and sharp. The chicks freeze. You freeze. The ground hums again. But it's not the old hum. It's something new. Not musical, not warm. It's dry, flat, mechanical. The hum of tectonic motion, of geology remembering it's alive. You glance at the nest. One of the old eggshells splits not from life, from pressure. The soil shifts beneath it. You hear rocks falling somewhere behind the ridge. Then silence again. Echo turns toward the nest, walks carefully, deliberately. She gathers the chicks, one under each wing. The bold one nudges its head against her side, seeking the hum that used to live there. It doesn't find it. But Echo hums anyway. One note. Flat, gentle. She holds it longer than any before. It's not meant to travel. It's meant to stay. In this moment, in this place, you suddenly understand something deep and uncomfortable. Lullabies aren't always meant to soothe. Sometimes they're meant to witness. Off-topic comparison. Sure, in World War I, soldiers in the trenches sang songs not to stay cheerful, but to prove they were still human, still real, still there. Echo's doing the same. Not for you. For the valley. For the memory. For the fossil that used to hum. For the egg that never hatched. For the chicks who still try to sing, even though the sky no longer knows how to answer. You sit down. You hum too. Not a song, just a sound. Because if no one else is going to echo her back, you will. The last day begins without warning. No sunrise, no shift in temperature, just the soft realization that nothing new has started. Only something old is ending slowly, gently, like a song fading out without a final note. You sit with Echo one last time. The nest is still intact. 3 chicks asleep. Their breathing syncs with one another now. The big one hums quietly in its sleep. Short, hesitant syllables like it's trying to remember a lullaby someone once sang too long ago to be sure. The 4th egg remains unhatched, untouched. You've stopped expecting anything from it. Echo hasn't. She still hums to it now and then. Not with hope, just habit. The valley is changing. You feel it in the way your ears pop at random. The air pressure shifts every few minutes. Insects don't hum. Trees don't rustle, and most alarming of all, no more birds. Not even silhouettes in the sky. And here it is, the moment we never expected to arrive. The silence isn't just absence, it's permanent. This is the new soundscape. A dull, heavy stillness that blankets everything like ash, and in a way it is. Here's your final historical fact after the asteroid impact near what is now the Yucatan Peninsula. The atmosphere choked with particles. Days turned to dusk. The Earth's surface cooled. Photosynthesis halted. Ecosystems collapsed like dominoes. Many believe the sonic world collapsed first. Animals that relied on calls on rhythms on echo went quiet before they went extinct. Historians still debate whether any animals sang after that. Whether any lullabies persisted through the global night that followed. We have no recordings, only gaps. But maybe you look at Echo and wonder, she doesn't act like this is an emergency. She isn't panicking. She's aware. She gathers the chicks, sits down and hums again. This time the tune is different, simpler, like she's distilling everything she ever sang into something a chick could remember without having ever heard it. A legacy note. You kneel beside her. Close enough to feel the vibration in your chest. It's smaller now, but clearer, like she's no longer trying to be heard, only remembered. And here's your off-topic wonder in 1977. The Voyager spacecraft launched with the Golden Record, a collection of Earth's music greetings and sounds encoded onto a disk meant for distant hypothetical life. Among them, a mother's kiss, a baby crying, a Mozart aria. The hope wasn't to be understood, just not forgotten. Echo's doing the same. She sings her species forward not in blood or battle or invention, but in memory. The chicks stir. One begins humming back. Not perfectly, but it tries. It tries. The mist thickens again. The sky closes in. From far away, a dull rumble rolls across the land. Not like before, not local. This is deep, continental. The earth groans beneath the weight of too much change. You don't need to see it to know something massive has shifted. Maybe tectonic, maybe cosmic, but final. Echo rises one last time. She steps to the highest point of the ridge and sings. It's not long, not complex, but it's beautiful. A clean line of melody wrapped in the weight of everything that came before. She holds the note for a moment too long, then silence. But something strange happens. You wait, you listen, and after several seconds, you hear it. An echo. Just one. Soft, delayed, distant. You don't know where it came from. The cliffs are too far, the valley too dead. Maybe it wasn't real. Maybe it was memory or mercy. But Echo hears it too. And she smiles. Not with her face, she doesn't have one of those, but with the way she turns back toward the nest and hums one final time. The chicks curl tighter into her warmth, and she stays there, still, present, humming even now under the weight of a sky that no longer answers. Because some songs aren't meant to be repeated, only remembered. And now the lullaby fades. In a forgotten valley, where the soil once sang, and eggs stirred to hums passed down through hollow bones, silence has arrived. Not as a sudden end, but as a slow, persistent hush. The dinosaur that sang to its eggs who mimicked the trees harmonized with the tunnels and wove song into stone knew the change was coming. She wasn't the first to hum. She was the last. Her lullabies were more than comfort. They were maps, warnings, memories pressed into rhythm shaped in air carried not for the present but for the unknown. She sang not to be heard but to be remembered. The world around her faltered. Sound lost its bounce, the ground forgot how to vibrate. But still she hummed, even as the chicks fell quiet. Even as the fossilized echoes beneath her feet ceased their reply. One egg never hatched, she sang to it anyway. And though the others lived, the air they were born into was no longer musical. Still they learned. Fragment by fragment, they carried the notes in their breath in the way they slept, in the way they twitched in dreams. At the end there was no final roar, no dramatic extinction, just one note, a clean, pure note offered to a sky that refused to echo. But it did, once, and that was enough. If you ever wonder what songs we've lost, just remember not all echoes fade. Some burrow deep into the bones of time and wait quietly for someone like you to press an ear to the ground and listen.